To the Seekitsu Times, welcome to my channel, welcome to Total War Warhammer. So, we're going through a lot of the patch changes that have happened here, and some of them are pretty significant, like these wonky costs for the Lords. This is mostly because now Lords pay for abilities. So the base cost for most of them has gone up, because they don't want people to be able to cherry pick abilities and reduce the cost of their Lord while still being very, very effective. But the base cost of the Lords without those abilities is cheaper than it used to be. For example, this Lord of Bretonnia, only 800 points when he used to be 1,000. So you could potentially take a very discounted Lord with no abilities whatsoever. You can also take items with Lords. I could take, for example, this Potion of Healing on him. That gives him a pretty decent amount of extra health if you really need it. There's also, for example, the Potion of Foolhardiness, which makes it so he won't run. You've got the Potion of Speed, which gives you extra little boost of distance there. Potion of Strength, which gives you plus missile damage, plus weapon damage. And then you've got the Potion of Toughness, plushes hit points of combatants, which is a bit weird. And it's also giving you a huge bonus to melee defense and armor, but at a less duration than the Potion of Healing, which gives you better hit points. So honestly, Potion of Toughness is probably better, just because you'll probably be in the fight taking a lot of damage while you are drinking that. So General Empire, though, General of Bretonnia, though, pretty typical sort of stats and stuff like that. Drops down to a fairly low price. Don't have to take any items if you don't want to. Cost of mount, 1,300 for a Lord on a Hippogriff with no abilities is not actually that terrible. Lone Lane Corps as well, much more expensive. You'll notice if I fully upgrade him, he's sitting at 2,403 points, which is more than he used to cost by about 400 points when you're sitting on Beaquest. You can also add the Sword of Quorum onto him. It's an activatable skill which lasts for 32 seconds. It's a magic item essentially that is cursed, gives minus 15 armor and minus 36 melee defense to all enemies in the radius, which is a fairly large radius, making him even better at being a support type general while still being kick-ass in melee combat. Still one of my favorite Lords in the game. I think that his statistics are really good. Paladin of Bretonnia, generic sort of stuff here, nothing too spectacular. He demotes himself down to being a fairly inexpensive Lord at 500 points there. Damsel, much more expensive, has all these sort of abilities that you can strip away and drop to a really low price. Wizards, unlike melee types, have scrolls instead. You've got the Scroll of Leeching, which reduces an enemy wizard's power recharge rate. The Scroll of Shielding, which increases damage resistance to an ally unit. And then there's the Scroll of Power, which lets you immediately basically recast a spell, but at the cost of causing instantaneous miscast, so it's not really that great. So for the rest of the Bretonnians, the Grail Knights got a slight increase to, looks like their defense was supposed to increase. Minor stat increases, I'm not going to know the numbers for, really. It's just going to be very difficult for me to find those out. Slight increase on the Field Trebuchet's range, now 440. Which makes it a pretty decent field artillery piece. So next up we got the dwarves here. The generic Dwarf Lord here has actually got an item, and it's a pretty interesting one since it's a bound spells. The Fairy Ring of Thori. It's actually a breath-based sort of ranged attack. It's a little bit interesting that they got that for the dwarves. Other than that, though, generic abilities. Costs goes all the way down to 1,100, which is still pretty expensive, actually, which is really weird to me. I would have thought that the Dwarf Lord would be one of the cheaper ones. You've got Ungrim Iron Fist. His special item is a fairly common one, Axe of Dargo. This increases his weapon damage for a short period of time by quite a bit, and there's a lot of items that are sort of like this, so we'll just say that they're like the Axe of Dargo. Thorgrim Grudge Bear costs a ton now. The High King ability is still pretty useless, but you can drop it and it's only worth 70 points, so I mean you might as well keep it on him. Even dropping all the abilities, he's pretty expensive, 1,650, so his price didn't really decrease. His special item is the Great Book of Grudges, plus 8 melee attack to all allies in range, 45 meter range, and it's constant, so it's a pretty good bonus, but it's nothing like too spectacular, and it's very expensive, even without any of his other bonuses that boosts him up to 1,900 in cost. Pretty expensive. Thanes, nothing special here, typical potions and stuff like that, but here's where things get interesting. The Master Engineer can be made into essentially the Battle Standard Bearer. They can take the Banner of Lost Holds, plus 6% weapon damage to all allies within range. It's interesting that's not ranged weapon damage, but it is still pretty good. I do think that that's sort of a pretty decent one. Runesmiths as well have a lot of options now. They've got the Master Rune of Grungni, which gives you plus 20% missile resistance constantly. You've got the Master Rune of Groth One Eye, which gives you plus 8 leadership in an aura around you. Not really that great in my opinion, since dwarves already have really good leadership. And then there's the Master Rune of Stromny Redbeard, which is plus 4 leadership and plus 8 Moly Attack in a really wide aura around you. So I actually think that the Master Rune of Stromny Redbeard is better than the Great Book of Grudges, which is really, really dumb. I think they definitely need to do something about Sorghum Grudge Bear. But other than that, though, the Slayers here, they've got some changes to all their statistics. They're 100 points cheaper. They've got more hit points, supposedly more melee defense, I don't really know. Supposedly more armor-piercing damage. I believe their speed got reduced by a little bit, but other than that, actually no, it looks like their armor-piercing damage should have increased by percentage. So not 100% sure about those numbers, but I do think that they're pretty viable right now. Just that 100-point decrease in cost is pretty significant. A little bit more melee defense lets them last a little bit longer, a little bit more hit points. I'm not 100% sure about the numbers, but it seems fine. Quarrelers with great weapons got a 50-point reduction in cost, but they're still worse than regular Quarrelers, and you're paying more to have a an inferior unit, so I really don't get the point still. Iron Drakes and Iron Drakes with Trollhammer Torpedoes were both decreased in price. 200 points with regular Iron Drakes, 100 points with Iron Drakes with Trollhammer Torpedoes. And their movement AI sort of improved a little bit, so they turn a little bit more sharply and a little bit better. So they're a little bit better at actually shooting at targets. Might make them a little bit more viable. The Grudge Thrower reduced in price by 50 points. It's increased range, same as the Field Trebuchet for the Bretonnians. Other than that, it should be pretty... Actually, I think it's also got plus accuracy as well, so it's a little bit better even there. I think that the Gyro Bomber as well, the other Gyrocopters stayed the same, but the Gyro Bomber got some increases to all of its statistics, and also its bombs got a big bonus to its damage as well. The Flame Cannon over here got some tweaks to its statistics. I believe that's 100 points cheaper, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Might be the same, but just looking over the patch notes that I've sort of got written down here. But yeah, like it's supposed to have more explosion damage, a little bit less armor piercing, or a little bit more armor piercing damage, stuff like that. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure since I never paid too much attention to the statistics of this thing because it's a little bit too expensive for my tastes. But I think also its range went up a little bit. It's 180 now. That might be the same as what it used to be. Greenskins, you've got your generic Orc War Boss. Typical sort of nonsense there. The Goblin Great Shaman for some reason has a melee weapon. Skull Wand of Kaloth. Plus 16% splash attack power, plus 22% weapon damage. Like, it's really weird that they gave that to a Goblin Shaman. Grimgor Ironhide over here, practically the same, even with his upgrades and abilities, because they, I guess, mean so little to him. You can take them all away, and he's cost 1,500, which is still really expensive, but he is still by far the beefiest, tankiest lord in the game. He can get Gitsnick, which is a lot like Ungrim Ironfist's weapon. Brings him up to a massive 2,108 points, though, which is pretty freaking expensive for just a Amelie Lord. Azeg the Slaughterer costs more than him now, and you can drop his price by quite a bit by dropping a whole bunch of these spells off of him. So if we take them all away, for example, he would only cost 1,359. Then you can just snipe to the spells that you really like, and he costs pretty similar to what he used to cost before. His magic item is, for some reason, the Spider Banner. You can toss that on him and it changes his attacks to poisonous. And this is actually a pretty good thing, because it's really cheap, and like poison reduces the attack damage that people put out against him, so it actually helps keep him alive for a lot longer. A unit that's got, like, say 400 attack, like say Azeg himself, would be losing somewhere in the realm of like 80 weapon strength against that, so it does actually help quite significantly. Next up, you got the heroes here. Goblin Big Boss has been reduced in price by quite a bit, so we are looking at a 300-point Goblin Big Boss here. Can throw him on a Giant Spider, brings it back up to 500 points, but it gives him poison and encourage. So, I mean, like, this is actually a really good value. He already was before, so this is an obscene value right now. Night Goblin Shaman. You can get rid of the Madcap Mushrooms, which are really shit, so getting rid of those is actually quite fine. Sneaky Stealin' I never really thought was actually that important anyway, so you can drop this guy by quite a bit, and then you can drop some of the spells that you just don't think are all that important as well, and you'll pretty much be in the discount territory while still having the majority of the spells that you would want to have active. Now, he does just have the generic scrolls. Same sort of thing goes for the Orc Shaman, but he doesn't have any abilities here other than Power to Wog to drop, so you could drop that, and then you could drop a couple spells, bring them down to discount value. For the Infantry, the Night Goblins, both varieties, have their increased leadership, +4 to what they used to have there. Savage Orc Biggins dropped by 50 points, which is really good. I thought they were actually a really, really good unit. I thought they had 43 weapon strength, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was just the Savage Orcs that had higher. The Black Orcs, on the other hand, got an increase of 100 points, which is pretty bad for them. They were already pretty expensive, but now they cost 100 points more than, like, I think they're really worth. They were pretty well priced before. The main problem I had with them was the speed. Made it very difficult to get in combat with them, but now that them being cheaper, you can assume that you're going to see more of the more horde-like infantry as opposed to a big lineup of Black Orcs. The Night Goblin Archers also got a little bit of a boost to their leadership, but it's still really, really bad. Savage Orc Boar Boys got their price reduced by 50 as well, I believe. Not the big ones, just the regular ones. Making them a little bit viable. I'm not 100% sure about that, but we'll have to see how they work out. Your Ragnarok Spider apparently got its armor-piercing damage dropped, and you can definitely see the effects of that, down to 280. I believe it used to be 320 for a total weapon strength of 420. Does hit it quite hard, but it's still really quite strong. The Trolls supposedly got their leadership increased. I think they used to have 34, so I do think that that is true. Goblin Rock Lava got its range increased. It used to be 360, it's now 400. And the Goblin Doomdiver Catapult has been increased in price by 100 points. So I think they thought that was just a little bit too strong for the War Machines for the Greenskins there, with the Rock Lavas being a little bit too weak. But now with the equal range on the Goblin Rock Lava, could be really strong to just take a bunch of Goblin Rock Lavas. Next up, the Empire. You've got the generic general of the Empire, nothing special going on here. Karl Franz is now much more viable than he used to be. He was pretty okay before, but the fact that he didn't have anything special going on for him compared to the regular old Empire General made it not the best. But now that the regular General of the Empire costs more and the Imperial Griffin for him costs more, you end up paying a pretty similar amount of points for him as compared to Karl Franz. You can see that their points values are pretty close. You can also take two different types of weapons for Karl Franz. You can take the Reichland Runefang, which is a splash damage version, so it makes you a little bit better at dealing damage to a large number of people. Or you can take Galmaraz, which makes you much, much stronger at dealing damage to an individual target, so assassinating an enemy general, for example. You can take that onto him, and he costs 2,424, which is less than Lone Lane Core, but he does... costs about the same once you pop on Blood Roar, so you do have to pay for that separately as well. Balathazar Gelt has your sort of typical Lore of Metal nonsense going on here. He's got your sort of very generic abilities. He lost his Grounding Rod or whatever it was that made it so he doesn't miscast for some reason. Not sure why they got rid of that. You can customize your spells however you want. This is still one of those lores that I just don't think is particularly great. There was some rebalancing to some of the stuff here, so you are seeing something like Transmutation of Lead. I do believe that 30 seconds is longer than it used to last, but still, it's a relatively weak lore. Maybe the improvements to it are going to make it viable, though. For items, you can take the... Staff of Volens, increased power recharge rate, increased to power reserve. So it's basically channeling, 135 second cooldown on it, but a larger duration. For their heroes, you've got the Empire Captain, pretty much exactly the same as the Paladin, except he's got that extra ability there of the Hold the Line. You can drop all of his abilities and cost the same as the Empire or the Bretonnian Paladin. Nothing special going on there. The Warrior Priest, he's got scrolls. You can drop his abilities if you want to, although that's really all that he has going for him. Witch Hunter is kind of interesting. You can get rid of the Slippery ability, and he costs 760, so he costs a pretty discounted price. He's got potion access, nothing special there. Bright Wizard, Light Wizard, Celestial Wizard, same as they used to be, other than the cost. Amber Wizard got added in. This is the same as the Lore of Beasts for the Beastmen. He's got the Wild Heart, which is increased to power reserves. I hope it's a bigger bonus than the power reserve bonus for Death Magic, but I'm not 100% sure about that. And he's got the Arcane Conduit ability. He doesn't have any access to items at all, which is really weird to me, but he does have access to, for some reason, an Imperial Griffin, which makes him cost, like, ridiculous amounts. His damage, though, does change to 450, which is kind of hilarious to me. He's very, very high hit points for a like normal wizard, so yeah, I really don't know about doing that. It seems like that's a bad idea to me. He also gains access to Blood Roar when you do that, which you can make this guy pretty expensive. Like, put him on there, he's 2,230. He's almost as much as Karl Franz. You can sort of make up for that by just dumping all the spells off of him, though. So, I mean, now you've just got a Griffin Rider for 1,484, which is still pretty expensive. I wouldn't do it, personally. Next up, the Demigryph Knights with Halberds lost a little bit of their bonus versus large. It used to be 36, I believe, and supposedly they also lost a little bit of melee defense, if I check my notes here. No, their armor penetrating damage also got reduced. Okay, so I don't actually remember what their armor piercing damage was before. It might have been 40. Other than that, though, they've got the Hellstorm Rocket Battery got reduced in price. Its range got increased to 440, longest in the game. Not really worth it still, in my opinion. The Hellblaster volley gun got a slight increase to range. I do believe it used to be 200. 230 is a little bit better, and its cost apparently also got reduced, but not by enough for me to actually think it's worthwhile. Steam Tank as well. Supposedly it got hit by its speed, but I believe it was 50 before, and I believe its ammunition was dropped as well for the Steam Gun, so that might be the case. Vampire counts. Master Necromancer, very, very sort of normal stuff here. Heinrich Kemmler, on the other hand, has two unique items that you can choose from. The Chaos Tomb Blade. This gives you even more regeneration around you. So you could take this on Heinrich Kemmler, and he becomes extremely powerful at keeping undead alive, or unalive, or whatever you want to think of it as. So he becomes the best at doing that particular niche thing with the Chaos Tomb Blade. The other thing you could do is take the Cloak of Mist and Shadows. This would give him an activatable damage resistance, and it's quite a large amount of damage resistance. Works against pretty much everything. I don't know why it just doesn't say generic. I guess because it's like everything except magic damage. It also gives him magic damage, so you know it could be useful for melee combat if you're fighting something like Karen Wraiths or something. But I don't know why I would use Kemmler to fight Karen Wraiths. So yeah, he could be pretty interesting. The Vampire Lord, no items access whatsoever, so that's a little bit weird. They're a little bit overloaded on abilities, though, so I don't know that they need it necessarily. You can actually take Arcane Conduit on them now. It's an activatable thing, which could be really, really strong. Manfred von Karstein is an option here. I don't believe that you're allowed to pick up Arcane Conduit with Manfred von Karstein, because he instead has the Master of the Black Arts, which does basically the same thing there. He's got like a billion spells. You can reduce his cost quite a bit by axing a bunch of them. If you just want to be a Lore of Death wizard with just like 2 spells or whatever, you could definitely do that, and that brings his cost down to something a little bit more reasonable, but still very, very expensive. For items, he's got access to the Sword of Unholy Power, which increases the amount of magic when he's in melee. So you could pop this. The risk is that he's not necessarily the best melee combatant for a Lord. He's good, but he's not amazing, so that could bite him in the ass a little bit. Banshee doesn't really have anything special, just potions. They never had very many abilities to begin with, so I don't know if they really changed them too much. White King sort of got like more nerfed than most heroes, I think, because they were like 800 before, but now that they're paying that price for the Heroic Killing Blow ability, they're pretty much more expensive. Still a very, very good hero. Necromancer, typical scrolls and stuff, your normal sort of stuff there. Vampires, typical scrolls and stuff, nothing too special there. They can still take Immortal Will. So yeah, all around pretty much just fairly generic heroes here. Nothing too crazy or nothing too amazing. Their units, if I recall correctly, stayed mostly the same, although the Blood Knights lost 10 points in speed. And I believe that's all that changed for their units. Moving onward, got Chaos Warriors. Chaos Lord, generic, nothing too special there. Items, generic potions. Prince Sigvald the Magnificent got some interesting stuff. Still very generic abilities and so on and so forth, but he's got the Auric Armor, which gives him constant HP replenishment, which makes it so that you can just throw him into a fight and expect him to just last it out for pretty much forever. Chaos Sorcerer Lords, all of them just have access to scrolls. You can dump their abilities or their whatever to drop their points down to something that you find more reasonable. Polec Suneater over here. Same sort of thing. They added in like a couple bonuses to his statistics and so on and so forth, including his weapon strength here. Has a bonus versus large now. It's 18 points, so that's almost actually insulting to him. But generally his stats got tweaked a little bit, and every single Dragon Ogre has plus 18 versus large, which is not large enough in my opinion. It's not big enough bonus to make up for what they lack, really. Archaon, items as well. He's just got a fairly generic one here, plus splash damage. Pretty good still, nothing wrong with that. On a character like this as well, that's nothing to scoff at because his splash is so good already. Archaon the Everchosen, he's got a decent number of abilities and spells here as well, so nothing too different here. You are looking at a very, very expensive base lord, but part of that is the spells, so we can drop all those and drop his price down to what it was before, but then you don't have a spellcaster out of him, so that's kind of like meh. You could just drop on like a fireball or something like that, and he'll be pretty effective still. The Crown of Domination is his first item that you could potentially get. It's really bad. It's just a +4 leadership in range. Really, really terrible in my opinion. The Slayer of Kings, it's the same as Polec, basically, splash damage sort of thing. So it's nothing special, but it's not terrible either. For heroes, you've got access to some unique items here. You've got the Blasted Standard, which gives you a bonus missile parry in radius around him, or the Mark of Khorne, which gives you +8 Moly Attack, +4 charge bonus on himself only. So it's a little bit weird that this doesn't apply to units around him or something like that, which would be, I think, more sensible, but just as it is, can make it so he's a little bit more powerful for like a lot more points, which I think it's too many. But the Blasted Standard could have uses if you got a lot of shielded warriors. Chaos Sorcerer with Fire, typical sort of stuff, just scrolls, nothing too special here. You can drop the price down, same as always. For their generic units, Chosen, their price got reduced by quite a bit, by 150, I believe, for the regular Chosen. I think they were the ones that used to be 1,400. You've also got I believe that their Moly Attack was supposed to go up, their hit points were supposed to go up, and their Moly Attack damage, I think, was also supposed to go up a little bit. Not 100% sure about what the numbers were beforehand, but those were on the patch notes, so I do believe that could be true. The Chosen with Halberds were reduced in price by 50. The Chosen with Great Weapons were reduced in price by 50. But the Chosen with Great Weapons also supposedly got a little bit of plus bonuses to damage and their attack statistics. So not 100% sure, again, if that's true. It does look like it, as far as I can tell, but I don't know what the numbers for sure were before. Chaos Knights got a little bit bonus on melee defense. It does look like they did. The Trolls supposedly got a bonus to leadership. I think they were 34 before, so I think that might be true. Dragon Ogres got a bonus versus large, and their stats were tweaked. They've now got a ton of hit points. 6,930 is a very, very large amount of hit points. Not sure if it's going to be enough to let them compete with some other units. Like, why would I take them instead of a Giant? I don't really know. I feel like the Giant is still a better choice for cheaper. But these guys are pretty fast, I suppose, so you could use them for that purpose of harrying the flanks or something like that. Looks like they were also supposed to get a bonus to defense, so I guess their longevity got increased a little bit, but I still think they're quite bad. Dragon Ogre Shegoth got similar treatment, but yeah, I think that Chaos probably didn't get the changes put where they needed to be. Characters in this patch are going to be much, much less important in the sense that they're much more expensive now. So if you want to have that really expensive key character now, it comes at a much greater cost than it used to. So it's going to be interesting to see whether players still want their hero, their Lord character, to be defining and to crush enemy units by themselves, or if they just want more units, which you could definitely get more units if you fully demoted a character from, Archaon the Everchosen is a good example of this. So his statistics are really, really good for melee combat. Let's remove every single ability. 1,550, and you've got a character that's got like 3,645 health, tons of armor, good leadership, really, really high melee attack and magic attacks there. Melee defense is really good. Weapon strength is really good. Charge bonus is really good. Or we could fully upgrade him, and we could just go wild here and make him cost like literally twice as much as he used to. Yeah, we're looking at over twice the cost here for something that's statistically very, very similar, but has some powerful abilities. So we'll have to see how people value those. I definitely personally would hinge on just cherry picking very key abilities that you plan on using in the matchup, and customizing and tailoring your characters that way. But anyway, I hope you found this video enjoyable, and of course, as always, I hope to see you all next time.